I don't like Ozzy. I love him beyond forever, unconditional. You can do anything, and I'll always be there for him. You know what I mean? You know?
There's only one guy, Zakk. There's only one Zakk. I mean, thank God.
Zakk Wylde, Ozzy Osbourne's longtime guitarist and close friend, never imagined that the final notes he would play alongside the Prince of Darkness would be at that special night in Birmingham. On July 5, 2025, Ozzy took the stage one last time at Villa Park, performing the concert that would later be known as Back to the Beginning, a farewell to his fans, his city, and the decades of music that had defined him. For those in attendance, the show was a celebration of a life fully lived. The songs, the energy, the connection with the audience all felt electric, almost timeless. But for Zakk, standing beside Ozzy on that stage, strumming the familiar riffs they had played together for years, there was an unspoken weight in the air, a subtle awareness that something profound was happening.
I'll always be there for him. You know what I mean? It's not about the money. It has nothing to do with anything. You know what I mean? There is no lawyers. There is no managers. There's nothing to deal with anything. You know what I'm saying, though? Sharon goes, oh, we only got $100 on the table. All we can give Zakk is $10. Because we got to pay for the trucks, the this and that. Is he in, is he out? I'm always in. You know what I mean? I worship the ground he walks on, bro.
It was impossible to know at the time that these would be the last chords Ozzy would ever play live, that this night would mark the end of an era. Just 17 days later, on July 22, 2025, Ozzy passed away at the age of 76, leaving behind a world that had loved him fiercely and a family that had cherished him even more deeply. In those 17 days, memories of the Villa Park performance became even more poignant, a final testament to the vitality and passion that defined Ozzy to the very end. Fans, friends, and family would forever look back at that concert not just as a farewell performance, but as a glimpse into the resilience and dedication of a man who, despite illness and decades of hardship, refused to let his spirit dim on stage.
And I remember Bobby comes back, and he's like, Zakk, we were drinking one night. He goes, you've got to stay out of the web. Stay out of the web. He's pulling you into the web. And the web was going out drinking with him every night, you know, because no one wanted to drink with Oz except for me. Because I was like, well, Ozzy's the best. He's the coolest. He's the Fonz.
Zakk Wylde later reflected on the intensity of that night, on the energy Ozzy brought, and on the bittersweet realization that music had given them one last shared moment, a gift and a farewell all at once. It was a night full of celebration, but in retrospect it carried the quiet weight of an ending, a reminder of the fragility of life and the power of the legacy we leave behind. Zakk Wylde, who had been by Ozzy Osbourne's side since the late 1980s, sharing stages, studios, and countless moments behind the scenes, had secretly hoped that the farewell concert would not truly mark the end of Ozzy's musical journey. Even as they prepared for Back to the Beginning at Villa Park, Wylde clung to the faint hope that the energy of the night, the roar of the fans, and the thrill of performing once more would reignite Ozzy's creative fire, that somehow this would just be a pause, not a conclusion. In a candid conversation with Loudwire, Wylde revealed the private jokes he shared with Sharon Osbourne, the matriarch who had stood by Ozzy through decades of chaos, triumph, and personal struggle. The running joke when I would text Sharon, Wylde explained, I would go, well, look at it this way, Mom. Hopefully this thing will go great, and then Oz will fire up the machine again. To which Sharon would reply with a quiet mix of hope and caution, saying simply, let's hope. Those texts, seemingly lighthearted, carried a deeper weight, a mixture of longing, worry, and the understanding that life and health are fragile, even for a man as legendary as Ozzy Osbourne. In that interplay, one could see the heart of their world. Sharon, the steadfast anchor, Zakk, the loyal comrade, and Ozzy, the rock icon who had given everything to music, yet remained profoundly human in his vulnerability.
I'd be drinking with Oz. And the rest of the crew guys were like, what, you know, Zakk, you got to stay out of the web. And I was like, but I like the web, you know, because what would happen is, yeah, Oz, I didn't know, is the last person you wanted to rob a bank with, because he would name names and just tell everybody. Mom, Sharon would go, well, who were you drinking with last night? And he would go, I was with Bobby, Zakk, Randy, I was with Mikey. You know, he would name names. He would tell you where the money was, where the bodies, where we buried them. I mean, it was just...
The farewell concert was meant to celebrate the end of an era, but behind the music and the lights, it was also a quiet acknowledgement of life's impermanence, of the unpredictable fragility that can turn the greatest moments into memories overnight. Wylde's hope, Sharon's tempered optimism, and Ozzy's relentless dedication all intersected in that final performance, a night that would later be remembered not just for the music, but for the love, the tension, and the bittersweet knowledge that this would be the last time they stood together on a stage that had seen decades of history. Zakk Wylde, reflecting on that final night with Ozzy Osbourne, could barely grasp the reality as it unfolded. I didn't think after we got done doing Mama and Crazy Train and everything like that this is going to be the last time we're ever going to play or I'm ever going to see Sabbath again, he admitted, the weight of hindsight heavy in his words. In the moment, the stage was alive with the familiar energy that had carried them for decades. The music, the lights, the roar of fans all blending into a euphoric haze. Wylde, like many who knew Ozzy closely, had assumed that this farewell was just another chapter, a pause before the next adventure, the next record, the next show. He pictured future studio sessions, imagining Ozzy calling him to come on down and do your diddly diddly on another track, joking as only he could. That night, the camaraderie, the laughter between songs, and the shared glances of a band that had weathered decades together all felt ordinary, familiar, comfortable, and that familiarity made it nearly impossible to imagine that it was in fact an ending. The realization, when it finally settled in, carried a quiet, crushing weight. The last handshake, the last riff, the last time they would stand shoulder to shoulder and feel the electricity of the music coursing through them was happening in real time, and none of them fully knew it. For Wylde, that night would forever be tinged with both gratitude and sorrow. Gratitude for the decades of music, friendship, and memories shared, and sorrow for the sudden, unanticipated finality of it all. In that blend of elation and heartbreak, the farewell concert became more than a performance. It became a final chapter in a story that had spanned lifetimes, a moment of celebration shadowed by the inevitable truth that nothing lasts forever, no matter how loud, no matter how legendary, no matter how immortal it feels in the music. The Back to the Beginning concert was more than just a farewell show. It was a reunion decades in the making. On that stage at Villa Park, Ozzy Osbourne sat regally on a throne, a poignant symbol of both his legendary status and the physical limitations he had faced in recent years, particularly due to his battle with Parkinson's disease. For the first time in 20 years, he reunited with his Black Sabbath bandmates, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward, a moment that felt both triumphant and bittersweet, as fans witnessed history unfolding live before their eyes. Alongside these iconic figures, Ozzy also played 5 of his most celebrated solo songs, with Zakk Wylde shredding familiar riffs on guitar, adding fire and energy to a performance already charged with emotion. Yet even as the crowd roared and cameras captured every frame, Wylde couldn't help but let his mind wander into hopeful fantasies of what could have been, imagining a future where Ozzy might return to the stage, perhaps with a souped-up throne, fully energized, fully alive, continuing to deliver the music fans had adored for decades. That throne, while a necessity for his health, became a symbol of resilience and creativity, a reminder that even in the face of illness and mortality, Ozzy had refused to surrender his art. For Wylde, for the band, and for the fans, every note, every chord, and every cheer carried a double weight, the exhilaration of witnessing one last magical night, and the quiet, gnawing awareness that this would truly be the end of a chapter that had defined a generation of rock and heavy metal. The juxtaposition of jubilation and melancholy, of legacy and finality, gave the concert a sacred quality, a chance for the world to celebrate Ozzy Osbourne not just as a performer, but as a man who had fought, lived, and loved fully, even as time and disease pressed against him. In the lead-up to Back to the Beginning, Zakk Wylde spoke with Rolling Stone, revealing both his excitement and his unwavering belief in Ozzy Osbourne's enduring power as a performer. Wylde knew that promoters and fans alike were watching closely, eager to see if the Prince of Darkness could deliver one last unforgettable performance. If Oz sounds great and everything like that, if he wants to continue carrying on singing on a throne, we'll just make the throne so it goes out over the audience. Wylde explained, his imagination painting a picture that was equal parts fantastical and exhilarating. It shoots fire and water and dragons come out of it. You know what I mean? And we'll make the throne part of the show. It'd be amazing. There was a gleam in Wylde's eyes as he spoke, not just about spectacle, but about possibility, about the sheer joy of working alongside a man who had defined a generation of rock music. Wylde was adamant that Ozzy still had the energy, the voice, and the spirit to continue performing despite the toll of age and illness. Why not, he asked rhetorically, the conviction in his tone palpable. I really think it would be great. If they do this Sabbath thing and it sounds amazing, and Ozzy sings great, and the band sounds amazing, and the only difference is Ozzy's just sitting down, why not, right? You know every promoter's just got their fingers crossed on this one. The words captured a mixture of hope and defiance, a refusal to accept that the legend might be finished, a belief that with creativity and heart, the music could keep going, that the magic could continue even in a throne lifted above the stage, shooting flames and fire into the night. In retrospect, the interview reads as both a testament to Wylde's loyalty and optimism and a haunting reminder of how fleeting time can be. He was envisioning a future that, in reality, would never come to pass, yet the dream itself reveals the depth of devotion, camaraderie, and admiration that Wylde and so many around Ozzy held for a man whose voice, energy, and presence could never truly be replaced. Just weeks after Back to the Beginning, Zakk Wylde reflected on a final, quietly profound exchange he had with Ozzy Osbourne, a small, intimate moment hidden behind the chaos of the farewell concert. In an interview with Guitar World, Wylde recalled receiving what would turn out to be the last text from his longtime friend and collaborator. Everybody and their mother were in the backstage dressing room, and I just wanted to give him a break, Wylde explained, the memory tinged with both nostalgia and a subtle ache. He had assumed they would catch up the next day, that there would be time for more laughter, more stories, more riffs shared between them, but reality had other plans. The message from Ozzy arrived, simple yet deeply heartfelt. "Zachy, sorry, it was like a madhouse back there. I didn't see you." And then just a few words that carried the weight of decades of friendship, music, and shared history. "Thanks for everything." Wylde replied in kind, their conversation distilled into its purest form. Two friends acknowledging a bond that had survived everything from late-night studio sessions to world tours, from the chaos of fame to the quiet, private struggles of life. "It was just us talking, saying, 'I love you, buddy.' That was it," Wylde said, the simplicity of the exchange belied by its profound emotional impact. In that single message, one could feel the culmination of a lifetime, the camaraderie, the respect, the unspoken understanding that this was the end of a chapter that had shaped them both, and that their shared legacy through music, memories, and friendship would endure long after the lights of Villa Park dimmed for the last time. It was a quiet, human moment that contrasted sharply with the spectacle of the stage, yet somehow captured the essence of Ozzy Osbourne, larger than life, yet deeply, profoundly human, leaving a mark not just on the world, but on the hearts of those who loved him most.